You are here because something feels heavier than it should. Not because one single thing went wrong, but because too many things have been piling up inside you for a long time. Responsibilities, expectations, emotions you never had time to process. You kept going. You stayed strong. You did what needed to be done. And now your heart feels tired in a way you cannot easily explain. I see that weight. I know how quietly you have been carrying it. I know how often you chose to move forward instead of resting, because resting felt impossible. You were never meant to live with this much pressure on your chest. You were never meant to hold everything together alone. Listen to me for a moment. You do not need to arrive here calm. You do not need clarity. You do not need the right words. You do not need to fix anything before you rest. You are allowed to stop pushing. The tiredness you feel is not failure. It is a sign that your heart has been working without relief for too long. Right now, let your breath slow. Let your shoulders lower. Not because everything is solved, but because you are safe. Here, I am not measuring your faith by how much you can endure. I am close, especially when you feel you have nothing left to give. You have been trying to hold life together with effort, managing, planning, adjusting, staying alert. And even when nothing looks wrong on the outside, your soul feels exhausted. That is not weakness. That is humanity. You were created to breathe, not to live in constant resistance. You were created to lean, not to survive. Everything on your own. There is a kind of heaviness most people never see. It comes from being the one who stays steady, the one others depend on, the one who keeps things moving. You learned to swallow your emotions so others could feel safe. You learned to postpone your own needs. Over time, that strength became heavy, not because it was wrong, but because it was never meant to be constant. I know how often you told yourself to just get through one more day. I know how many times you ignored your own tiredness because someone else needed you. This kind of exhaustion does not announce itself loudly. It builds slowly in the pauses you never take, in the feelings you keep delaying, in the tears you do not allow yourself to feel. And then one day, even small things feel like too much. Hear me clearly. You do not have to prove your worth by holding everything together. You do not have to stay strong to be loved. I never asked you to carry the weight of the world. I asked you to walk with me. Strength that never rests becomes burden. Love that never receives becomes empty. If you feel tired in a way, sleep does not fix. It is because your soul is asking for permission to stop performing. You are not losing your faith. You are being invited into a deeper one, a faith where you are held, not tested, a faith where rest is not a reward, but a gift. there comes a moment when pushing harder stops helping. You reach for the same strength that carried you before, and it feels different now. You try to focus, to discipline your thoughts, to force yourself forward, and instead of relief, you feel resistance inside. This is not because you failed. It is because effort has reached its limit. I designed you with limits on purpose, not as punishment, but as protection. When every day becomes an act of endurance, something inside you tightens. Your body keeps moving. Your mind keeps planning, but your heart starts pulling back. This is not weakness. This is wisdom rising quietly, telling you that this way of living is costing too much. I am not asking you to quit your life. I am not asking you to abandon responsibility. I'm inviting you to stop carrying everything with clenched hands. There is a difference between commitment and control. Control drains you. Trust restores you. When you try to manage everything alone, your heart stays on guard. When you allow me to carry what overwhelms you, your heart can finally exhale. You learn to survive by pushing through discomfort. That skill helped you once, but survival is not the same as living. There is a point where effort becomes noise and rest becomes clarity. You do not need more discipline right now. You need alignment. You need to come back into rhythm with how you were created to live, supported, accompanied, held. Rest is not the same as escaping, even though they can look similar. Escape tries to make you forget what hurts. Rest allows you to stay present without being crushed by it. Escape numbs you for a moment, then leaves you empty. Rest meets you where you are and slowly returns you to yourself. You have tried to quiet the heaviness by staying busy, by filling the silence, by distracting your mind. And for a moment, it works. But when the noise fades, the weight is still there. That is because your soul does not need distraction. It needs to be held. True rest does not ask you to run away from your feelings. It gives you space to breathe while carrying them. And there is another layer of heaviness I want to speak to. The weight of always needing to be okay. The pressure of feeling like you cannot fall apart. The fear that if you stop holding everything together, everything will collapse. Even when you sit still, part of you stays alert. Your body may rest, but your mind keeps watching. That is not rest. That is survival. I know why you learned this. There were moments when no one caught you, when you fell, moments when vulnerability felt unsafe. So you adapted. You became strong in ways that cost you tenderness, but constant alertness slowly drains your soul. You were not created to live in defense mode. You were created to live in trust. Trust does not mean nothing will hurt. Trust means you are not alone. When it does, you do not have to anticipate every pain to survive it. You can soften without putting yourself in danger. You do not have to collapse to rest. You do not have to cry to rest. Sometimes rest is simply the moment you stop fighting yourself, fighting your tiredness, fighting your need for comfort, fighting your limits, fighting your humanity. That fight is exhausting. What if instead of fighting what you feel, you allowed it to exist without judgment? What if you stopped calling your tiredness weakness and started seeing it as a signal that something in you needs care, not correction? Some of you are tired not because life is hard right now, but because you have been carrying old weight for a long time. Old disappointments, old grief, old expectations you placed on yourself. Time does not remove those things. They stay stored inside you, quietly shaping how heavy life feels now. Rest allows those hidden weights to surface gently, safely, at a pace your heart can handle. Healing that lasts is not forced. It unfolds when the heart feels safe enough to let go. And safety does not come from control. Safety comes from presence. That is why I am here with you now, not to rush your healing, not to fix your past, but to be present with you. Presence tells your nervous system it can stop running. Presence tells your heart it does not have to stay tense. You might believe rest must be earned. That peace comes after improvement, that you need clarity before you can breathe again. That belief is not from me. You do not need answers to be held. You do not need clarity to rest. I am holding what you release. Nothing collapses when you rest. There is also guilt. You have been carrying guilt for stopping, guilt for needing comfort, guilt for not being stronger, guilt for feeling heavy. Hear me clearly. Your tiredness is not a moral failure. Your need for rest does not disappoint me. I do not love you less when you are exhausted. I move closer. If you could see yourself the way I see you, you would feel compassion instead of shame. You have endured more than people know. You have tried harder than you admit. You have kept going, even when you wanted to stop. You do not need judgment. You need rest. Now let everything slow down. You do not need to solve anything in this moment. You do not need to prepare for tomorrow. You can simply be here. Breathing is enough. Staying is enough. Rest does not erase pain, but it changes how pain lives inside you. Instead of crushing you, it softens. You begin to notice space between thoughts, less fear in the silence. Healing often begins quietly, without announcement. Rest is not something you achieve once. It is something you return to again and again without shame. There will be days when the heaviness comes back. That does not mean you failed. It means you are human. Each time you return to rest, you build trust inside yourself. You learn where safety lies. You learn that you do not have to stay in survival mode. You learn that you are allowed to pause without falling apart. Now let your breath be simple. Let your heart stop fighting. Peace does not need to be chased. It is waiting for you to stop running. You are not leaving rest behind. You are carrying it with you. And whenever life feels too heavy, again, you will hear the same invitation. Come back, sit down, breathe. You are still held. You do not need to wait until you break. You do not need to wait until everything collapses. You are allowed to rest now, even if nothing is solved yet, even if the future is unclear, even if you are still healing. I see you. I know you. I am with you. And you are allowed to rest here